Since Casey's not in the room, I'll do a quick introduction of myself, and then I'll let Casey take it from there. I'm Garrett Long. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of a company called Omnifold. We are a software company in the planning space for supply chains. Instead of listening to me for 25 minutes, I thought it would be much more interesting to hear from a customer of ours. Casey's the VP of Operations for a company called Carbliss. He's going to tell you all about Carbliss, the journey they're on as a company, and how we kind of found each other and intersected and have partnered to help their business continue to grow, actually very, very rapidly. And Casey's here to share the story. I'll take a little time right in the middle, just explain a little bit more what Omnifold does, but we meant this to be interactive. He was supposed to be here. So please, let's have questions. It's not a problem. I can be the proxy if he's going, I can re-ask questions for Casey and things like that. So makes sense. Sorry, it's a little more awkward than we hoped, but Casey, I think with that, you can take it away. Do you have control or do I control it for you?
I think you have control. Yep.
Yes, I do have control. Okay.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, again, thank you everybody for having me and appreciate, the opportunity here to tell you about Carbliss and our supply chain journey. So Carbliss, if you're not familiar, is a handcrafted premium cocktail. It was founded in 2018 by our co-founders there on the left, Adam and Amanda Craner. And at the time, they were on the keto diet. If you're not familiar, the keto diet is a low-carb diet. Now, at the time, they were looking for an alcoholic or adult beverage that they could enjoy while still being on that diet. At the time, what was more popular was seltzers, and they really just did not care for what was on the market at that time. Now, Adam has a manufacturing background, and Amanda herself has an accounting background. So what better recipe for opportunity than to start their own beverage? So there it was born in their kitchen. They decided that they were going to bring something to market that was different from what was already out there. They wanted something that was full flavor, vibrant in color, premium in nature by using vodka. And the result is Carbliss. 0 calories, 0 sugar, 100 calories, and gluten-free. Now, Carbliss's go-to-market strategy from the very beginning has always been backyard to backyard, securing roots in one market before moving to the next. We think that this has been a recipe for success, and it's earned us numerous industry recognitions. Perhaps the most relevant to our discussion today is being slotted at number 7 on the Inc. 5000's fastest growing privately held companies in the U.S. So a little bit about myself. I have the pleasure of serving as head of operations and quality to my team there on the left. That's a photo of us down in Tampa when we were launching the state of Florida back in December. And I also serve as husband and father to my family there on the right. I am a Wisconsin native, so it should come as no surprise. I spent the majority of my career in dairy manufacturing, of course, up here in the cheese state. And really my role at Carbliss is to take product from conception into commercial form and eventually get it out to all of our wholesale distributors. The map you're looking at is a representation of how we currently produce and distribute our product. So we produce at 5 different contract manufacturing sites, and we have a total of 6 warehouses that we use to supply all of our wholesale distributors. With that, if you're not familiar with contract manufacturing, generally in these type of arrangements, we do all the procurement. So we have a formula that we work off of. We know what the bill of materials is. We procure all those materials. We send those materials to our contract manufacturer, and then they begin the process of converting into finished goods. In the process, they collect what's called a tolling fee, and the finished goods sit either at their location or a nearby warehouse. And then it's also the brand's responsibility for order fulfillment. I should also mention that if you're not familiar with alcohol, we do follow what's known as a 3-tier model. In that 3-tier model, it separates manufacturer, wholesaler, and retailer. So we can only sell to wholesale distributors. We cannot sell direct to the consumer, nor can we sell direct to the retailer. So the challenge in front of us, well, the good problem rather, it's been growth, right? So in the last 5 years, if we go back to 2021, the brand sold 43,000 cases. Yep, there we go. 43,000 cases in 2021. And then over the next 5 years, we grew to 4.3 million cases. That's nearly 100x growth across 5 years. It was not part of the business plan. We did not expect to experience that level of rapid growth, but we're very thankful for it. To date, the brand has sold more than 10 million cases and can be found in over 75,000 accounts. So as being innovative from day one, our success has allowed us the opportunity to continue to bring new flavors, new SKUs to market. And by way of doing so, we've added on new suppliers. We source new materials. We've contracted with larger volume suppliers. And we've also expanded our contract manufacturing network to be able to serve all of our wholesale distributors. So what I want to talk about now is what I call the growth paradox and the challenge really that any CPG firm has. That challenge is planning inventory. And so if I asked everybody in the room, and I'm going to ask Garrett to maybe I can see most of you, I can't see the entire room, but if you had the option of either missing a sale or carrying excess inventory, which would you prefer? How many say missing the sale?
Oh, we got 3 brave souls that say
we got a few. Okay. How many? I'm assuming the rest of you would rather than just carry excess inventory.
Carry inventory, everybody? Okay, let's ask why miss a sale? I'm so curious.
Missing one sale doesn't really make it enough to take a hit. In my industry with billions of dollars at risk,
okay.
Missing one sale is, I would rather miss one sale than carry 100 or 200 or 300.
Okay. Interesting. How about there on the miss the sale side?
I would say the same. It depends on which sale.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Well,
we have 145,000 SKUs, which is way too many.
Okay.
So how do we go narrower and chase it?
Interesting. Okay, so they have 145,000 SKUs, Casey.
Wow.
So I don't feel bad for you now.
I I would say both.
How many?
207,000.
207,000. Okay. Did you want to say something?
I was going to say it depends on what customer you're missing sale.
Right.
It's not the same if it's your
that
customer, you're
also
not going to sale, but if it's
There's many more factors, right? Yeah. Sure.
But sometimes even with my biggest customers, I miss a sale rather than invest in inventory.
Yeah.
Because if I can't get a key component today, I don't buy all the rest of the material. I can't afford to do that.
Right.
Depending on the inventory. That's crazy.
Okay. And where's our Lockheed friend? You guys want to never miss a sale, right? Put that rocket up.
Depends. We do intentionally or unintentionally miss sales.
Okay.
It sort of
Cost
depends on how elastic
the cost of the inventory.
It really depends on if your demand's going to walk away or not.
Right.
So if you're distributing, I mean, if we miss a sale, they just go somewhere else.
Sure. Well, I know Casey's gonna say exactly that because in his business, right? If the product's not on the shelf,
It's not on the shelf.
they're picking something else. All right. So, Casey, we had a strong bias towards carry inventory, with some strong arguments for it depends on the type of business.
Absolutely. I kind of expected as much. Would obviously love the opportunity to learn more about each of you and your backgrounds. But I think really, at the end of the day, neither is a great option. We want to have the right amount of inventory at the right time for exactly what we need. I think we can all agree that there's waste and there's challenges that come with either side. So I want to tell you a little bit about, if we could just go back one slide for a second. I want to tell you a little bit about our story and kind of where we found ourselves a few years ago. Now, I just got done telling you about all that amazing growth. And you might wonder, how did we do it navigating our inventory at that time? Well, if I go back to 2023, the business was limited by cash. Okay. We were only able to produce what we had cash available to produce. So every dollar that came in, we tried to turn it back into inventory as quickly as possible. And that might not be unfamiliar to some of you in the room today. Ultimately, despite our best efforts, we ended up with stockouts. Now, aside from lost revenue, it resulted in some shelf placement loss. It resulted in frustrated distributors. They were excited for the brand, but, when we couldn't deliver it to them, they couldn't sell it. They couldn't capitalize on the brand either. And ultimately, when it wasn't in front of the consumer, it began to erode. That brand awareness was eroding. So all of those things that we had worked so hard for, that rapid growth can definitely come with a toll. Now, what did we do about it? Well, the next year, we did what anybody would do. We went out and we found another lender. We got access to more capital, and we doubled down on our make plan. Well, what resulted was we ended up with twice as much inventory. And as we were approaching peak season, which, by the way, beverage, there definitely is seasonality. So the warmer months of summer is about what we consider our peak. We were still outpacing, our inventory was outpacing sales. That's never a good thing when you get to the peak of the season. So I had to sound the alarms. I had to call off POs. I had to go out and find another 100,000 square foot of warehouse space so that we could keep as much of this inventory as possible. But ultimately, it was not a good result. We had way too much on our hands. And really from there, we just had to deal with it. We had to look back and admit defeat. How could this have gone so wrong? Next slide, please. So if I gave you a peek under the hood and told you more about what led to that, really at the end of the day, we have to acknowledge our forecasting process. It never received the amount of scrutiny that it deserved. Sales, well, they would really just look at what they sold the year before, and they knew that they had to tack on some growth percentage that would appease the owners. And really, once that budget was passed, it was handed off to myself and my team to, just figure it out. Is that familiar to anybody in the room today? The just figure it out method? A few?
Yeah, everybody. Yes. Everyone's laughing under their breath right now.
So really, in reality, we were being asked to predict the future of a brand that was doubling its offerings year over year. We were entering new markets every quarter. And even if we had all of the historical data, it wasn't relevant to what we were facing. And so, of course, the rate of success was never going to be great given those factors. Next slide, please.
Trying. Oh, there we go. Not perfect. Here we go.
So, yeah, it was chaos to say the least. We were adjusting our demand plan. We were required to interpret what had happened in the prior month. So constant conversation with sales. We were very reactive. We were left to try and determine whether, we're jumping all. That's all right. We were left to try and determine whether or not, what we had experienced in the prior month was real. Was it there to stick? Was it going to show up again next month? It was just really uncertain. And all that uncertainty created this constant revision, this reaction. We had changing PO, we were constantly changing POs. We were constantly placing emergency orders and really overproducing out of fear, right? Just add a little more safety stock and hope for the best. It was very costly. Next slide. So we had a big opportunity in front of us. And that opportunity was really to calm the chaos by creating a more accurate forecast. So my team and I sat down and we started to figure out what was it that we really needed to be successful? What was the information that was lacking? And we boiled it down to a few things. First and foremost, we needed to be able to account for SKU complexity at the state level or even at the distributor level. We had a big number from sales, and we were lucky to try and break that down and follow a demand curve month by month, but it didn't matter if we didn't have the right SKU. Next was understanding market demographics. As I mentioned, we're going into new markets each quarter, and not every new market was going to be just like our home state, much like the upper Midwest that we had plenty of historical data on. Those aren't good ways to predict Florida or Georgia. They're completely different markets. So if we could layer in unique demographics like on-premise versus off-premise accounts, whether they're chain-driven markets or independently driven markets, even just some of the people who lived in those states. Was it more of a older demographic versus younger? You get the picture. And then we wanted the ability to do some dynamic planning. Because we started every year with a plan, that plan eventually would get shooken up, right? We knew which markets we were going to enter at a certain point of the year. Rarely did that ever happen exactly according to plan. So we needed to be able to change the outlook in real time. And then also we wanted to be able to predict what we needed by location, geographic, in more of a geographic region. That would be able to support us growing beyond just the Midwest and having contract manufacturers set up in the Southeast, the Northeast, and then eventually out West. And we said, as a bonus, it would be really great if we could see the impacts, the financial implications of our decisions we would make in those planning phases each month. And in order to do that, we figured to be able to integrate with our ERP into NetSuite would also be, required.
All right. So I'm going to take over, Casey, for just a couple slides.
You got it.
And give a little. So this is where we met Carbliss. We had the good fortune to meet Adam, and he gave us a challenge. He says, "I've talked to all kinds of planning software. You guys all tell us lies. Nobody can do it really. Can you please show us?" Right. So we're a big believer in showing. That's what we are as a company. There's just level set kind of how we think about AI. I know every session here has AI in the title. Just want to give you the framework we use when we think about AI, and maybe you would find this useful independent of Carbliss and Omnifold, is you should always ask yourself, we think 3 questions about whatever AI system is being brought to you. The first is, who built the model that's driving the AI in the system? The second is, what is the objective function that model was trained for? And the third is, what data was used to train that model? You're going to hear a lot today at the conference, and I think over time we all hear a lot about this column, right? So we all know Claude and ChatGPT. These are amazing models built by companies who certainly have the credibility to build them. And they were built for a purpose, right? They were built to actually predict the next token. It looks like the next word to us, right? And it was trained on the entire internet. And that's why these systems are so kind of powerful, right? They can quote us poetry, and they can do simple math, and they can do some reasonable math as well, but they were really trained for a specific job, right? And we see in the supply chain specifically, there's a lot of work to layer this on top of existing systems. And that's good. That's going to be workflow, some automation. It's going to do some amazing things for us as people. But you would never ask ChatGPT to drive your car. And that's why Tesla didn't take a language model and put it into their car and ask it to drive the car, right? Instead, what they realized, they had a special purpose job, and that was driving. The objective is don't crash. And the data is actually the sensors from the car. And we don't care that that model can or cannot speak a foreign language or quote poetry. So Tesla, of course, hired the right people. You have to have the right people to do this kind of job. They built a model and it does its job. And at Omnifold, we have the same philosophy as Tesla in Outlook. We think every supply chain needs a purpose-built AI system. That's what we do as a company. I'll show you that in a second, because each of your supply chains is different. I don't think we have Coke and Pepsi in the room today, but Coke doesn't want Pepsi's supply chain understanding. It doesn't help them in any way, right? And vice versa. So why would we, and we are all today, just candidly, taking basic math that doesn't know anything about your supply chains and asking it to forecast the business, right? So and now we have the technology to be better than that. So this is kind of a visual of how we think about the world, is that we actually take the time to understand each customer's objectives. Like some objectives may be OTIF and service levels, some may be inventory levels, or never miss a sale, or always miss a sale rather than not if the conditions are right. We also teach it about your supply chain network. How do we go to market? 3-tier, single tier. Do I own the entire network, right? How does it work? And we use first party, second party, and third party data to train a model that becomes your model, right? So Carbliss in this project gets their own model. It is their model. It will not be useful for, name another, beverage cocktail, High Noon wouldn't get any benefit from using Carbliss's model. They need their own. And so then doesn't show up very well. Sorry about that. It's basically we deliver this as a software stack. There's a data layer, the model itself, and then an application on top of it, which you're going to see a little demo of a sailor from Carbliss actually using it during her planning process. And we deliver it as SaaS. So this is not service contracts. This is not, you're hiring us to be there to be your consultants. This is codifying your supply chain into an AI system. That's what we do. Okay, make sense? We'll take questions at the end. So basically, I'm going to hand it back to Casey now, because they were a real pain in my neck. We basically trained the model. We did the work. We do a pilot. We often do. And then we were asked to basically forecast the business at the SKU disti level, right? And so they said, hey, please do 6 months of basically a strict back test. We didn't know what their forecast was going to be. We only had our prediction. The actuals existed because this was, in a back test model, and where their forecasts had historically been. This is the table of comparison. And Casey, I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah. Thank you. So the results were really, they exceeded our expectations by leaps and bounds. To be honest with you, I was a bit skeptical up front. Initially, I thought the concept was really cool, but just like anybody, I think I carry a healthy amount of skepticism, and I need to see the results to believe it. And so what we had done is we had asked Omnifold to predict that month, really each month moving forward. We only had given it historical data up until, in this instance, say probably May and possibly even June. With that, on the far right, you can see our accuracy at predicting the SKU level by state or by distributor. Not awesome. Certainly not a number that you want to do a lot of planning on, and hence the reason for our interest in Omnifold. What was really cool is Omnifold was, the first month of data we received, and we said, we might have something here. This thing is definitely better than what we have. But it's only 1 month. It's only 1 month. We need to see this play out for a while before we really believe in the power. And the results are right there in front of you. It was consistently better than we were able to predict month over month, coming out of peak season and moving into the fall. And that's the point that we realized we really had something here. There's definitely value to our business.
I think this one's even a little more interesting. It's in its own way, Casey.
Yeah. So here we layered in some unique demographics. So we said we want to be able to predict what's going to happen in a market that we don't have any historical data for. That's the point that we started to bring in that unique demographic information that I was referring to just a few minutes ago. So we would tell it, hey, here's the state we want you to predict for. And oh, by the way, in that state, here's a breakdown of on-premise versus off-premise. We gave it some other, information about the population, and it was able to take that information, compare it to historical data, and make some inferences. Now, in the first month, it wasn't spectacular. But what ended up happening is we gave it the actual information for that month. It was able to recognize that it was not accurate. And probably, I think anybody at Omnifold could explain it a little more in depth than I can. But, it was really starting to figure out which variables or which set of data was highly correlated to the effects. And ultimately, what you see is over a short amount of time, just a few months, that gap closed.
Right.
And it became extremely predictable.
Yeah, I'll just add to that, Casey. I think 80% accurate first month for an MPI is pretty good. Would you take it? Come on, Casey. Give us a
I would take it.
This is the reinforcement learning aspect of AI, right? It starts to chase the goal, and it chases the goal, chases the goal, chases the goal, right? And then the last part of this is how you bring in planner context to the efforts. And I think, Casey, the next slide is. You mind if I do the voiceover? It may be easier just because I'm here and you're not.
Yeah. We won't have the leg that way.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see if I can play it. Oh, I'm gonna mute it. So this is actually Sailor. She's up there in the corner. She's going. This is the Omnifold system. So this is a chat interface to the model. She's actually asking the model. I have a new distributor launch in South Carolina. How should I do that? What can I do? So just like if you're familiar with like OpenAI or something like that, there's a process and it says, hey, yes, I see that here's your historical mix of SKUs. Here's an idea of how I should do it. Should you do it proportionally or constant across SKUs? And it actually prompts her with like questions, right? Like smart questions like, hey, have you thought this? What about this? So the AI and her are partnering, and she's making up a plan, and it's going to be hard to read here, but the next beat is where we think the power of an AI system with a human is where it's all about. They understand the context of the business, right? SAP, CRM, Salesforce, they don't understand the context of your business. It's just data. So the AI was like, hey, the Omnifold system was like, hey, you should use this style. And Sailor said, well, wait a second. What about the neighboring state? What can I learn from the neighboring states as I think about this launch? So the system goes back and actually pulls the neighboring states data from their historical records and says, oh, you only have one state next door. It's Tennessee. It only sells 8 of your 12 SKUs. Is that okay for a DC launch? Taylor says, no, that's not okay. I need to launch all flavors. Right. And so that interaction of like accelerating her through this process, right? Where, I mean, admittedly, this would have taken her, I don't know, Casey, hours?
Hours for sure. Yeah.
Oh, she can't. Yes. I turned off the sound. Sorry, Casey. Yeah.
No worries.
Like this is an hours or days project for her, I assume, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'll stop the video. And so then at the end, it launches the plan. It publishes a plan with the planner who then commits, right? This is a planning system. It's not an execution system. So she has the final arbitration of, I like this plan. I'm going to.
Does it run into the ERP?
Yeah. And then it pushes right straight back into whatever operational system you want to point it to. So does that make sense? Hopefully, sorry, it's hard to see there, but obviously we're here if you guys want to, see so Casey, I think we just have 2 or 3 minutes left. So, I'll let you take this summary and what's next.
Yeah. So I'm going to make this quick, guys. We've proven the model to be very, very accurate. We're gaining a lot of benefits from it, every single day. The more information we feed it, the better. We're realizing this in the way of a lot of time savings, as Fort just mentioned. We're also able to produce the inventory where we need it regionally. So it's helping us bring our freight costs down. We're seeing fewer aged inventory issues by carrying the right amount of inventory. We're reducing our storage expenses. We're going to plan to carry 20% less inventory this year, which means we're freeing up about $4 million in cash flow. That's a big deal for a growing brand. So really in all, I mean, we're pretty excited to see what the future has in store. Next steps for us is integrating with ERP and starting to layer in some of the costing aspects. But aside from that, I know we only got a couple minutes. What questions are in the room?